All right. Hey, folks. Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. We're back this week. Last week, I had a presentation. It went really well. It was basically, I talked about pretty much the stuff that I see on stream, except I rambled a little bit less than I do on stream, and it was a little bit more structured. Give me 1 second. Sorry. So, as I was saying, I you're on stream, which is .NET data analytics. Talked a little bit about .NET for Apache Spark. Talked a little bit about ML.NET and .NET Interactive. Speaking of, let's see here. There was a recent announcement from the .NET Interactive team. Not sure if you folks caught that. But essentially, let's see, Preview 3 is out. Let me just browse this guest here. Let me grab the link here. I'll paste it into the chat as well. So there you go. There's a link in the chat. And basically, there's a lot of really, really good things. Essentially, so this was something that was possible for a very long time. But the team has been really working hard to, improve it and make it that much better. And essentially what you're able to do is you're able to run .NET Interactive, which is what we've... All right. Thanks for stopping by, Ruben, 258. Hope to see you soon. So essentially, .NET Interactive, that's kind of what we've been using on stream. Essentially, you can run... Yeah, that would be great, Ruben. The more F sharp. So Ruben says that considering doing a basic F sharp stream one day. Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. The more F sharp love the more love that F sharp can get, the better, right? The more community, and the more, I guess, visibility that the platform gets, which is always a good thing. So .NET Interactive is this tool that we've been using on stream to essentially use Jupyter notebooks and run .NET code. In our case, we've been doing F sharp. So it's really great that we've that you can do that, right? Now, there's this sort of experimental feature, and it's still very experimental. It's still in its very early stages, but you're basically able to run these .NET notebooks or Jupyter notebooks inside of Visual Studio Code, right? Which is awesome. But one of the things that the team's really been looking to improve is this concept or this notion of polyglot notebooks. And what that means is, for example, maybe it might be a little bit more idiomatic to work on a piece of code, right? A snippet of code using, for example, C sharp. But then perhaps the rest of your application, you might want to continue doing it in F sharp, right? So your main program is in F sharp, but maybe something works a little bit better, or maybe it's probably easier to do in C sharp. Well, in that case, what you can do is you can do variable sharing, right? And you can write in one language. For example, this example here, right? You have a C sharp variable. Let me zoom in a little bit. And then you tell it, hey, I want you to share this C sharp variable with F sharp, right? And I think eventually it's gonna show up here. There's your C sharp variable. Let's see. Oh, I guess I didn't do it. But essentially, that's what you should be able to do, right? You should be able to share your values across languages, right? And sharing values, including JavaScript, right? So if you're doing some nice visualizations with D3JS, which is a very popular visualization library, these are the type of things that you might want to do, right? Now, one of the things they talk about it here, but it's kind of buried a little bit. It's this thing here, right? So you can take advantage of rich coding experiences like IntelliSense, right? So if you're just running the Jupyter browser sort of extension, or not extension, but if you're running Jupyter Notebooks through the browser, IntelliSense is something that you may not necessarily get, but if you're running within Jupyter Notebooks, if you're running within VS Code, there's just a lot of tools, terms, and things that I will misspeak from time to time. But if you're running Jupyter Notebooks inside of VS Code, you get to take advantage of some of this IntelliSense support that they have. So that's really awesome. So yeah, make sure to check that out. I'll paste the documentation, or I pasted the link to this already, but you can also go ahead and check out some of the docs here and take a look at those. Awesome. So let's see here. Okay. Let me start up in the meantime my my VM. So I had actually set a spending limit on my VM. And as always, I left something on and forgot to turn it off. So as you might imagine, I hit my spending limit. So I had to kind of disable it a little bit just for the stream. So let's go ahead and start that. And once we start it, then we'll log in and go about our business. In the meantime, let me see if that is scheduled already. YouTube. This Wednesday, it's that time again. Machine Learning Community Stand-Up. Let's see. Machine Learning. Well, let me look up the not foundation. There we go. So this Wednesday, October 7th. Make sure to tune in. So we're going to have our friend John Wood joining us, and he's going to talk about a few things, mainly around contributing to ML.NET. He is a very passionate, he's a Microsoft MVP, very passionate community member who contributes a ton to ML.NET. And his contributions, they really range sort of the spectrum of contributions, right? So one of the things that... So one of the things that John does is he contributes to the core library. So recently, I believe he had a PR to put in a sample. Hey, Gregor, good to see you. So one of the things that he's done is he contributes to the core, right? The .NET machine learning repository. The other thing is, and probably most of you may know him from this, is his YouTube videos and a few courses that he's put together. And in addition to that, also being one of the organizers for the virtual ML.NET conference, right? So there's, as you can see, John's contributions are in many different forms. So if you tune in this Wednesday, you get to hear a little bit about, kind of like his thought process and if you're interested in contributing yourselves, perhaps, you may take a tip or two from John and start contributing yourself if that's something that you wish to do. So yeah, we're really excited for Wednesday, so make sure to tune in. Let's see here. All right, let me open up. I think my VM is started, so let's continue the work. Yeah, I don't know if anybody tuned in from who was part of the conference that I or the presentation at the conference that I did on Wednesday. I was actually trying to work with the Dataset. I didn't want to use the VM. I wanted to use a local sort of environment, right? So basically this computer that I'm using now to stream, I was trying to process the data on this computer. And it's not a bad, in terms of specs, right? It's got about 8 gigs of RAM and enough storage space. But my computer would freeze every time. So long story short, that demo definitely didn't fly for the conference. This is actually what I was trying to show. Basically the work that we've been doing here on stream, I was trying to show that to the folks at the conference. But unfortunately that did not turn out the way that I wanted. So I guess in the meantime, we'll continue working on this VM because it seems like on the VM, it seems to slow down just a little bit when it's processing the data and running the queries for us. but it seems to handle it well enough to the point where it literally won't freeze and sort of shut down our machine. So yeah, that's that. All right, let's see here. See if I even remember what my password was. I guess this is as good time as any. I know that I've been missing a lot, but I'm just trying to take advantage of fall, at least before going into hibernation during the winter months. But next Monday I won't be here. I'll be up in the mountains, hills, just relaxing, enjoying nature, getting a little hiking in. Hopefully we get nice weather. And yeah, so I'm really excited for that. So next Monday I won't be here, but the rest of the week, like today, of course, and then tomorrow, we'll be doing the stream. Let's see. It's finally sweater weather here. It's also, let's see, it's also that time of the year when the leaves are turning. So there's actually this really cool, let's see, New York foliage report. So this is something that I check pretty often. So you'll see here they have this report here where they'll tell you basically in New York what is the color of the foliage, what does it look like. As you can see, the Adirondacks, that's the high peaks, and the mountains, that's getting to past peak, near peak to past peak. And of course, it's further up north. And then the Catskills, it's at right about peak. So yeah, and this is also like another mountain range. It's more to the southern tip of the upstate New York. But yeah, anyway, yeah, this is something I check regularly just to make sure that I catch just at the right time, catch the leaves at the right time. Anywho, enough of that. Let's see here. So SSH, open configuration file. Let's configure our remote SSH thing, and as always, maybe I should just set like a static IP. Just get that, because it seems like every time that we do this, I have to change the IP. All right, and then sure, continue. All right, are we in? Awesome. We're in. Now let's open the directory, and let's open the directory that we've been working on. So last time, I don't actually remember where we left off. Let's see, archive analytics. Yes. I think this should be okay. So last time, if I recall, where we left off was we were able to flatten. Basically, what we were getting was, we had this unbalanced data set, if you will, right? So you had basically everything was Astro pH, and maybe I would say maybe 99% of the data set had over 1,000. Sorry, over 99% of the data set had pretty much just one entry. These just like one-offs, right? So it seemed like most of our data set was just really one-off categories. But what we discovered was, that it's not necessarily that they were unique categories. What was going on was, in some of those cases, there were actually the category itself, or the field for category, had actually multiple categories inside of it. So for example, I don't know, let's say that it, like for example, it would have, one was astrophysics, but then it would also have like another category as well as astrophysics and stuff like that. So what we were able to do was, we were essentially able to flatten the categories, basically split up those multiple category entries, and then we were able to basically just create single category entries, right? That way we wouldn't have either double counting or counting a multiple an article that was classified under multiple categories. Make sure that it wasn't being sort of categorized as like a one-off, right? So that's kind of where we left off. And we were trying to see whether now the number of articles was still the same number of unique articles that we encountered. So let's see. First of all, let's start our Spark cluster in debug mode. And in this case, it's just a single node cluster, right? So once you're ready to debug, we can now connect to it. So let's do that. And then in here, let's do CD notebooks, Jupyter notebooks. Oops, it's notebook. And this should get us started. Of course, nothing's going to open up. Yeah, this weekend I spent it. I should have spent it trying to improve the quality of the stream, but then, you know, there's always this shiny new toy and different ways that I can spend my time. So what I did was I set up a Raspberry Pi as sort of like a wireless access point so that I can route some of my traffic through that instead of my actual router. That's weird. Localhost. Oh, that's right. Forgot to do one thing, which is there we go. Port forwarding. And now, if I go here, paste that in. There we go. I did not set up port forwarding. So yeah, that's what the weekend was spent doing, along with a few other fun tasks. All right, so let's go ahead and import our packages. Let's open it up, let our data directory, and let's initialize our Spark session. Let me actually zoom in a little bit. I know it might be a little bit hard to see. There, that might probably is better. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's go ahead and read our data. Display our column names. When I was prepping for the demo, I actually ran into a few really cool and interesting things that I think might simplify some of the stuff that we've been doing here. So display column names. This one, one of the nice things that you're able to do with this, actually, option. So one of the things that you're able to do is you're able to pass in options. And in this one, right, what I want to do is I want to tell it, I want you to infer the schema. Hey, here's it to you. So you've been watching it on the Xbox and it's working there. I think there's going to be a longer lag time, but it's okay. Yeah, I'm looking at this because I also have it playing on my iPhone, just to make sure that at the very least it's streaming. And there's a significant lag on there too. So yeah. But let's see, archive data. So one of the things you're able to pass in is you're able to pass in all these options, right? And as you're initializing your Spark session. In this case, what I'm doing is I'm telling it, hey, I want you to infer the schema. Typically, it does this by default, I believe. But if you just want to be very explicit about what it's doing, you can essentially do this, right? And then something else that you're able to do is you're able to print out the schema, right? Let's see, display. You also have to apologize. It may look like I don't know how to spell, but I got this new keyboard. My last one was kind of on its last legs, and I wanted something a little bit more quiet. I mean, I love the mechanical keyboards, but I needed something a little bit more quiet. And long story short, it's this weird, it's like split. I don't know if you probably can see it on camera, but it's like split. You can't see it. Anyway, it's split in half, and it's got like a curve as well. So it's just weird. And I'm still getting used to that. So supposedly it's ergonomic and it's gonna, I don't know, make me not get my joints, not hurt my joints or whatever, but we'll see. So display data frame schema. All right, so the way that we do that is, okay, now that we've got this, display our columns. Essentially what you do is, what was it called? Archive data. Archive data dot print schema. It's literally just that. And then there you go. So you can see here, it's we have our abstract, which is a string. These are all nullable. We have this one here, authors, parts, right, which is an array, and this array contains strings. So if you want to get a quick peek at what your data looks like, this is a really great way to do so. You just print your schema. So there's that nice convenience method there. Okay, so our categories, before we do this, let's take a look at what is the number of, let's see, let article count is equal to. So essentially what I want to see here is what is the total number of articles and what is the total number of unique articles, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to use, there it is, right? So there's an ID, and the assumption is, or I would hope, that the ID is unique per article. So we're going to use this ID as an identifier, and we're going to try to see how many articles are there in the data set total and how many of those are unique, right? So the way we can do that is we can say archive data dot select, and here I want to functions dot agg. Let's see, docs.microsoft.com .NET API, and then I want to take a look at Spark SQL, and I want to take a look at the functions. So there's this function called, or is it on a column? I think it's on a column. So column methods, maybe not. Data frame, properties, methods. There we go. So on a data frame, you can call this agg function, and let's see, aggregates an entire without groups. Okay, so let's see, functions.agg, functions.call ID, let's see, functions.count, and then this one, functions.agg, functions.count, functions. Actually, there's this other one. So there's count, and then there's count distinct, I believe. Let me see. On a column, methods. Let's see. Not equal to starts with. Make this a little bit bigger here. Data frame, functions. Let's see, functions. Let's see, C. Concat COSH. There we go. Count distinct, right? So there's a count, and then there's a count distinct. So the one that we want here is this, right? So in this case, the first column is going to be an aggregate. In this, it's going to be the count, and we're going to use the ID column. And in this one, we're going to count only the distinct sort of instances, right? All right, let's see if this works. Okay, functions does not define field. Maybe you want AVG. All right. AGG is not defined. But I literally just saw it. And it was on a data frame, methods, AGG. Oh, I guess I got to call it on the... Sorry, give me 1 second. All right, so I guess I got to call it on the data frame. What just happened? So select functions.call ID. And then here .agg functions.count ID. Is that right? Let's see. What is this? Article count dot show. Seven 47307. That looks weird. Instead, let me do this then. Functions.call. See, functions.count. All right, and then functions.count distinct. Functions.call ID. Call ID. And what I want to do is I want to give it an alias here, alias of no articles, and I want to give this one an alias of dot alias distinct articles, distinct articles. Okay. Column is implicitly ignored. Consider using the ignore expression. There we go. Cool. That doesn't sound right. Let's see, infer schema. I guess that might be right. I guess they're all unique articles. Count number of articles. Okay. All right. Let's go with it. Let's see. The alias categories. So find total number of distinct categories. We can probably get rid of this because we know now what our articles are. So now we have 10, what is it, 1747307 articles. We have this. So now there's 60,000 categories. Do I really care about showing this? Let's see. I can probably see. Probably get rid of this here. Function is not count. Function is not call. Category. Hold on. I forgot what it's categories. Okay. Functions dot count. Discount functions dot call categories. Okay. Think show. Cool. So if you caught that, right, what we're able to do is we're able to flatten this thing, right, and still get a data frame out using this aggregate function instead of telling it functions.count. And I guess I want a distinct, right? So count distinct, count distinct. All right, perfect. So we're going to basically do the same thing here. And we're going to do the same thing here. So it's AGG, functions dot call, no, count distinct, functions dot call categories. Okay. Bam. Oh, that's right. I gotta call dot show because it's a data frame. All right. So we want to do this. How do we want to do this? Okay, so all right, so that's fine. So 60, 106, and 187. Let me just make sure here. I guess I could do the math here. Scratch, right? So Control V plus what? 187. 6303, which is actually where are, there we go, 6303, the total number of distinct categories. Excellent. All right, so we're still fine here. We're not missing anything. So in this case, what are we doing here? We're doing select categories into multiple categories, and we're splitting it based on space, right? And the reason for that is we have this one, for example, math.pr and math.co, and you see that these multiple categories have a space. And then explode, what explode is going to do is it's going to sort of transpose, it's going to transpose the different categories, and it's going to create a row for each of the elements in the array containing the split categories, right? And then we're just going to group everything by category and do that, right? Okay. So when we do this, right, but in this case, I was doing it for the less than 1K. I guess I don't need this now that I think about it. This was like a proof of concept to see whether I can actually do this, which is now I'm doing it on the actual, because before I was doing that, like that other one, it was like a test to see like, okay, what does this give me? But now I'm doing it on the entire data set on all the categories, right? So flatten categories, and actually, I wonder if I should also functions that call ID. I wonder if I should also get the ID. And the reason for this is eventually I want to get a count of how many articles are in here, right? And that's going to fail. And why does it fail? Okay, what's the error? JVM non-static method, select fail class 40 when called with one argument. Cannot resolve ID. And that is because categories does not have an ID. So that means that I have to do it all the way up here. Fine. Functions dot call ID. Comma. Distinct categories. This should still run the same. And we should get 6303. Yep, perfect. I'll run it just because, but I don't think that we're going to get any value out of running these queries here. Okay. There we go. When we run that, we should. All right, so that's that. Okay, what's the error now? Cannot resolve ID given input columns. see what the... I see why this is giving me an error, and I think it's not because of this, but I think it's gonna be because of that. So when you do the group by, all it does is it selects one of the, but in this case I'm gonna do a group by categories and ID, which I don't think is right, because there you go. So now if I run this, we'll see something else. Oh, interesting. All right, guess not. All right, so let me actually do something here. So in this one, let me split these up because I do want to kind of run these queries, but I don't want to be forced to show, because show, that's really what takes the most time to run. Okay, this is fine. And show, let me split this up here. All right, flatten categories. Okay. All right. And I think in this one, I might have to do, in my group by, I might have to also get my ID. Okay, so this seemed to work. Let's see. Functions.call ID. Functions.call category. What's going on here? I literally just ran this query. Cannot. Oh, I see. Functions not call ID. I wonder if there's a way to have these downstream. Guess not. Because first this query runs, then this query. Yeah. Oh. Let's try this. Okay. Let's see how many total categories there are now that everything's flattened. And the reason why now everything's showing up as 1 is because, okay, so 176, cool. That's right, I think. The reason why it's showing up as this is that now, so there's only one ID, right? Because we're doing a group by ID and category. So the IDs are unique. And as a result, right, there's only one ID that's hep.th and the count is 1, right? So one of the things that I want to do now is I want to see how many unique IDs there are. So flattened categories dot select functions dot, let me bring this up a little bit, call, and then category dot group by functions dot call category dot count dot order by what functions dot call count dot descending. Okay, and then we do that. We just do whoops. Let flattened category counts cool. So this dot show. All right, so let's see. So now that we know how many total categories, now we went from, so before we had this number of categories, right? And now we've gone down to from 60,000 to 176. So big improvement there. Now once we see the total categories, okay, awesome. So there's 151. So it's a little bit more better. It's a little bit better distributed. Okay. There's still another flattening I want to do. So somewhere towards the end. I mean, we're gonna go back through this exercise and clean it up. And I think that this is a really good illustration, right, of sort of the process of doing data analytics and doing data processing, stuff like that. So right now we've gotten into the point. First we saw the problem where it was like, okay, well, there's articles that have multiple categories. Okay, let's fix that. We've done that. Now that we fixed that, we noticed like, it looks like there are subcategories. So there's astroph.co, astroph.sr. Is there a way that maybe we can combine all the astropHs and then maybe have like another category for the subcategories, if you will? And yeah, probably. And maybe that's something that we're going to do later on. But for the time, let's just continue exploring down this sort of path that we're going on now. And then maybe let's think about, okay, well, what would be the effect of us separating these, basically aggregating all the higher level categories and then just basically splitting out these subcategories, right? So let's keep going here, but then, maybe we'll switch over to doing an additional flattening or reorganization of the categories. Okay, so there's that, showing the top 20 rows. I still want to see the number of unique IDs. So we do that by taking a look at flattened categories. Dot. What was it? It was AGG functions dot count function dot call category. Let's just put show here because why not? And this should show us a distinct count of the number of articles in here. Oh, I'm sorry, not category. We want the ID. Oh, I guess I did that here, but let's get rid of that. That doesn't seem right. Well, actually, no, it does seem right. And I'll tell you what I believe happened. So what I believe happened is when we did this, when we did the explode, it's going to create a row for each of the categories. So for example, in this case here, right, it'll be math.pr and math.co. It will create a row for math.pr and a row for math.co. And the ID of these will be the same, right? So for example, let's say that's ID, I don't know, ID 1, right? So we'll give you an entry for ID 1 math.pr and then another entry for ID 1 math.co, right? So we're going to have to kind of reconcile that a bit. And we're going to have to work on, well, which one do we choose? So in this case, right, notice how there's hep-th and there's astro-ph. So in this one, right, in this example here, you can say math.pr and math.co. They're both math. So it's okay. Let's take one of them. First, second, whatever the choice is. In this case, though, here's another case. Astro-ph and gr-qc. Which one do you choose? I don't know. Maybe to keep it easy, we just go with the first one. There it is. See? So now when I told it, just give me the distinct IDs. Just give me the distinct IDs. Now it gave us the right number. Okay. Okay, so on the data frame, I just want to have distinct. Let's see, drop duplicates. Okay, so if we were to do, let's try to drop the duplicates here. So if we were to do something like flatten categories, drop duplicates, functions.call. Let's drop the duplicates based on what? ID? drop duplicates, ID, and show. Let's see what this comes up with. Because the way that I understand it, drop duplicates, it's going to duplicate rows remove considering only the subset of columns. So what I believe this should do is it should only take into account the column that I gave it as the column containing the duplicates. I don't know exactly though. Okay, so show only on the top. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so it does what I do want it. So it only takes a look at the ID, but then, okay, so let's see. Flattened, distinct categories equal to. Okay, so let's get rid of the show here, but instead, let's say drop duplicates. And in this one, let's see, let's do dot AGG okay. So now we're just going to do a count of the ID. We don't care about distinct because ideally, or ideally, this thing here, this operation here, should have already gotten rid of the duplicates. I don't know exactly what the logic of drop duplicates is. If it takes the first one and then anything else it discards, I don't know, to be honest. But let's just trust whatever logic it does for the meantime, the default thing. And if there's any way, like if we want to control how we do that, I think that maybe we might need to do some sort of custom dropping. Okay, perfect. We're in business. Okay, so now flatten distinct categories. So boom. So now if we were to plot this, open system, I don't even think we need this, but let's see. Flatten distinct categories. Let's change this up a bit. And once we got this piece working, I'm going to feel pretty good about what we've done here. Of course, we can always do better. All right, so once get this going. Might take a little bit. It's actually running two queries. It's running this one here. It's running this one here. Okay, so while this is running, yeah, so as I mentioned, I will be back on Wednesday. I won't be here Monday because I'll be relaxing, hopefully. But then the following Wednesday, I will be back. So, just Monday that I'll be missing. And are you done? How's it look? Oh no. 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 Did it freeze? Come on. All right. This does not seem to want to cooperate, but we're at the top of the hour. We did mostly good work today. We got essentially to the point where we were able to flatten it and only get the distinct articles, right? Because as we noticed, we were kind of getting duplicates once we applied that explode function, which created a row for each of the categories that we split our that we split on, right? For those multiple category articles. And we used drop duplicates to drop any duplicate ID entries that we found, right, that were created as a result of that explode function. Um, that logic, what logic it was used, whether it took the first entry that it found for that particular ID, whether it took the last, that we don't exactly know. So we're just going to trust that it picked one, and we're going to hope that that's the right one. So maybe later on we might investigate, okay, well, is there some logic or some way um, that we might want to essentially better select which duplicate gets dropped, right? But in the meantime, let's just go with that. And we were about to plot it to see our actual categories, but unfortunately, it seems to not want to cooperate. So I guess we can just pause it here. Thanks again for joining, and we'll figure this bug or whatever it is that keeps it from plotting our chart. So until then, I will see you. I hope, yeah, see you on Wednesday. Yeah, talk to you later. Bye.